"Sir, you're not on the list. You need to leave." That's what the security guard said as he stood in front of the gate of the house I bought, holding out one hand like I was some stranger off the street. But what really broke me wasn't the guard. It was the sight behind him, through the living room window. My wife, Rebecca, in one of my shirts, tangled in the arms of some shirtless guy on my couch. She turned, locked eyes with me, and smirked. Not a look of guilt, not even surprise. A smirk, like she'd been waiting for me to see this. Like she wanted me to know I'd been replaced. I felt my heart stop, then restart in pure rage. I didn't yell, didn't charge the guard. I just looked at her, smiled back, and turned around. But that wasn't the end. Because the next morning, while I was sipping coffee in my apartment, they showed up at my door, pale, shaking, and whispering one word over and over. Help. Now let me take you back. Because what led to that moment was a storm of betrayal, secrets, and a woman so cold-hearted, she turned our marriage into a war zone. I didn't open the door right away. I stood there, watching them through the peephole like they were ghosts from a life I'd already buried. Rebecca looked like she hadn't slept. Her makeup was smudged, her hair a mess, and her eyes, those cold, calculating eyes, were now wide and trembling. The guy behind her, the same clown who had his hands all over her in my house, looked like he'd seen the devil himself. I opened the door just enough to make them flinch. "Wow," I said calmly. "Didn't expect guests. Especially not the home-wrecking edition." Rebecca stepped forward, her voice shaky. "Jackson, I know how it looked, but please, just let us talk. Just a few minutes. You got exactly 30 seconds to make me not slam this door in your face." I replied, leaning against the frame. "Start talking." She hesitated, then blurted out, "They kicked us out." I blinked. "What?" "The police. Your lawyer filed some emergency motion. There's something about the title and ownership. They said we weren't legally allowed to be there. They escorted us out." My lips curled into a slow, cold smile. "So let me get this straight. You replaced the locks on the house I paid for, hired a security guard to keep me out, and invited this jackass in like it was a honeymoon suite. And now you're telling me you got kicked out for squatting?" Neither of them answered. Rebecca was already crying. The boyfriend, Travis or Trevor or some name I didn't care to remember, looked like he wanted to disappear. "Do you have any idea what it felt like?" I asked quietly. "Standing outside my own house while you were laughing inside with your little boy toy?" "I didn't mean for it to happen like this," she said, trying to grab my arm. I stepped back. "Don't touch me. You meant for all of it. The cold shoulder. The locked doors. The late nights pretending you were with friends. The sudden perfume that wasn't yours. You planned this for months, didn't you?" Her silence was answer enough. I was stupid, but I wasn't blind. I'd seen the signs. The lies started small, forgotten texts, suspicious smiles, disappearing on weekends. Then came the gaslighting. "You're paranoid. Why don't you trust me? You're imagining things." Over and over, until I started believing maybe it was all in my head. But the truth? The truth was she was busy living a second life while I was trying to build our first. Now she stood there, broken and desperate, like that erased everything she'd done. I stared at them both for a long second, then stepped aside. "Come in," I said. "Tell me everything. Every single thing. And if you lie to me again, I'll throw both of you back on the street." They walked in quietly, like kids caught stealing. She sat on the edge of the couch. He stood near the door, hands in pockets, clearly wanting to vanish. I grabbed a chair, flipped it around, and sat facing them. The room was dead silent. "Start from the beginning," I said. "I want to know everything. When it started, how long it's been going on. Don't leave out a single damn thing." Rebecca nodded slowly, wiping her eyes. "It started 6 months ago. 6 months. 6 months of lies. 6 months of coming home to my bed with someone else's fingerprints still on her." I clenched my jaw, but said nothing. "We met at a work event," she continued. "It was just flirting at first. Then drinks. Then it just happened. I didn't plan to fall for him. But—" "Stop," I said, raising a hand. "Don't insult me with that 'it just happened' crap. Grown people make choices. You chose this." She broke again, sobbing into her hands. The boyfriend looked at me and tried to say something, but I stood up fast and pointed to him. "Don't. Speak." He sat down. I walked to the window and stared out into the gray sky. 6 months. I could feel something inside me shutting down. The love, the hurt, the memories. It was like someone was going through my soul with a sledgehammer. And yet, underneath the wreckage, something else was growing. Clarity. The storm had passed, and now I was the one in control. I stood there for a long moment, my back to them, watching the cars pass by, my reflection ghosted in the window. Somewhere out there, people were waking up beside the ones they loved, going to work, drinking coffee, kissing their kids goodbye. And here I was, standing in a room with the woman who promised to build a future with me, and the guy she destroyed it with. Rebecca finally spoke again, voice low, almost whispering. I was lonely, Jackson. I turned slowly. Lonely. She nodded, eyes still glassy. You were always working. You were building this life for us, but you were never really with me. I needed attention. I needed to feel seen. That hit hard. Not because it was true, but because it was rehearsed. Like she'd prepared that line in case she ever got caught. I was working so you wouldn't have to. So we could afford that house. So you could quit your job, start your yoga studio, live the life you said you wanted. I snapped. Her voice cracked. And I appreciate that. I do. But I needed more. More. She needed more. So she crawled into bed with this spineless clown who was now sitting in my living room like a puppy that pissed on the carpet. My fists curled. He spoke up finally. Look, man, I didn't know she was still with you at first. She told me things were over. She said you were separated. Shut your mouth, I growled. You knew. Don't play dumb. You just didn't care. You thought you were better than me. Thought you'd steal a man's wife and sleep in his house while he was locked out of it like a damn stray dog. He shrank in his seat, saying nothing else. Rebecca wiped her face again. It didn't mean to go this far. I was going to tell you, I swear. But then we got in that fight, and I was angry, and I changed the locks. I told him to move in. So it was spite, I said. Not love. Not passion. Just revenge. She didn't answer. I walked over to the shelf near the door and pulled out a folder. Thick, black, heavy. I know everything now, I said quietly. Every text. Every hotel bill. Every charge on the credit card I gave you. My lawyer handed me a timeline that would make Netflix jealous. She went pale. This wasn't 6 months. This was almost a year, I added. You were lying to me while I was looking at engagement photos and planning our anniversary trip. You were rolling around with him while I was choosing which countertop you'd like for the kitchen. Tears streamed down her face. Real or fake, I couldn't tell anymore. Why are you here, Rebecca? I asked. Why come crawling back now? She hesitated, then whispered, because I lost everything. They froze my accounts. I tried to take money from our joint savings, but it was gone. The house was flagged by the bank because of the title. She looked at the boyfriend. He doesn't have anywhere to go. I looked at him and laughed coldly. Of course he doesn't. Please, she said again, trembling. I have nothing left. I know I don't deserve anything, but I didn't expect it to fall apart so fast. No, you expected me to fall apart, I said. But I didn't. I'm still standing. She opened her mouth, but I raised a finger. You blocked me from my own home. Embarrassed me. Disrespected me in ways I can't even say out loud. You let him put his hands on you under the roof I paid for, and you didn't flinch. I was stupid, she whispered. And now I'm sorry. I stared at her. Then I turned to him. You. Out. He scrambled up without a word and bolted out the door like the spineless snake he was. Rebecca didn't move. She just sat there, broken. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt empty. But in that emptiness, I knew what I had to do. She sat in silence, hands shaking in her lap, mascara streaked like war paint down her cheeks. I leaned against the wall, watching her, not out of sympathy, but calculation. I needed to see if there was even a flicker of the woman I married still hiding behind those tear-stained eyes. But all I saw was guilt that had finally caught up to her. You planned this, I said, quieter now. You didn't just mess up, Rebecca. This wasn't one mistake. This was months of deception, covering your tracks, lying to my face while smiling across the dinner table. And now that your fantasy burned down, you're back here with puppy eyes? She looked up. I didn't come here to ask you to take me back. Oh, don't flatter yourself. That's never going to happen. I came to say I'm sorry. And to tell you the truth. Finally, I stepped closer, arms crossed. Go on then. Let's hear it. She took a breath like she was about to dive underwater. The first time was at the company retreat. We were drinking. Everyone else was in bed. He followed me back to my room, and we crossed a line. She avoided saying it, like it somehow made it better. And then, I asked. It didn't stop. I told myself I was going to end it. But I didn't. I started comparing everything. You. How he listened, how you didn't. How he made me feel like a woman again, not just a wife. I laughed. Short, bitter. So I stopped making you feel like a woman, huh? Is that why you let him treat you like a toy in my house? That's not fair. No. What's not fair is building a future with someone who saw me as a placeholder. I cut in. You didn't just cheat on me, Rebecca. You erased me. You used me to build your comfort zone, and the second it got too real, you ran to some shiny distraction. She flinched like I'd hit her. You know what hurts most? I said. It's not even that you did it. It's how damn normal you were after. Like nothing happened. Like we were still us. You kissed me goodnight after letting him pull your hair in a hotel bed. That's the part that keeps me up. She was crying again, a silent, ugly cry this time. No performance. Just raw wreckage. And still, I felt nothing. I turned to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. She didn't move. The whole room was frozen in that same nauseating silence we used to share in bed when we both knew something was wrong but refused to admit it. When I sat back down, I spoke quietly. I filed for divorce last week. Her head shot up. That's why the accounts were frozen. That's why the house was flagged. I changed the locks, froze the credit cards, scrubbed your name off everything I could before walking away. You weren't supposed to know until the papers arrived, but honestly, I wanted to see your face when you realized the tables turned. Her voice cracked. I thought you'd just yell. Or throw something. But not this. I don't break like you do, Rebecca, I said coldly. I don't burn the house down just because I don't like the wallpaper. I rebuild. Quietly. Cleanly. And you, well, you'll always be ashes. She looked at the floor, defeated. You can stay here tonight. Couch only. In the morning, I want you gone. No discussions. No begging. You made your choice. This is mine. I understand, she whispered. I stood, grabbed a blanket, and tossed it on the couch without a word. Then I walked into my room, shut the door, and leaned against it. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel anger. I felt peace. Not because she apologized, but because I was finally done believing she ever loved me the way I loved her. I didn't sleep that night. Not a second. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to every small sound in the apartment. Every cough. Every shift of fabric. Every time the springs in the couch groaned under her weight. My mind kept playing the same scenes on repeat. Her face through the window. That smirk. That hand on her hip. Her boyfriend behind her like he owned the place. My place. And then there was the silence. The kind that comes after a war. Not peace. Just emptiness. At 5:43 a.m., I got up. I walked past the living room without looking at her. She was asleep, curled up in the blanket I gave her, mouth slightly open like none of this mattered. Like she hadn't torn a man apart and was just another tired girl on someone's couch. I poured myself coffee, stared out the window, and thought about what I'd say when she woke up. What was left to say? She stirred around 7. I didn't turn around when I heard her sit up. Just kept sipping the bitter, burnt coffee and watching the sunrise stretch across buildings that didn't care who was hurting inside them. Jackson. Her voice cracked. I said nothing. She stood behind me. Can we talk one last time? I finally turned. I said everything I needed to last night. But if you need to say something, go ahead. Make it quick. She looked down at the floor like it had answers she'd never bothered to look for until now. I just wanted you to know. I wasn't always like this. That's supposed to help me sleep better? I asked. She swallowed hard. No. Just, before you, no one ever treated me with respect. No one ever gave me stability, safety, a home. You were the first. And for a while, it scared me. It felt too good. Like I didn't deserve it. So I kept waiting for it to fall apart. And when it didn't, I broke it myself. I nodded slowly. That's about the only honest thing you've said. She looked like she wanted me to say more. Maybe offer some comfort, some crumb of validation. I didn't. You need to go, I said simply. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I'll pack my things. You have nothing here. She froze. What? You have nothing? That suitcase you brought. You can take that. Everything else stays. You walked away from your name on this life the moment you handed a stranger the keys to our front door. I walked over to the counter and dropped a folded piece of paper in front of her. This is your next address. I paid for a hotel room. 3 nights. After that, you're on your own. Her lips trembled. You don't have to do that. No, I said sharply, I don't. But I'm not like you. I don't throw people out into the street, even when they deserve it. She nodded again, quietly this time, took the paper and turned toward the door. I watched her slip on her shoes, slowly, like part of her still believed there'd be a last-minute change of heart. There wasn't. When the door clicked shut behind her, I sat down on the couch. It still smelled like her perfume. I almost tore the cushions apart just to get rid of it. I don't know how long I sat there, but eventually, I stood up and opened the windows. Let the cold air in. Let it bite. She was gone. The silence that remained wasn't empty anymore. It was freedom, and I was still standing. Later that afternoon, I went back to the house. The same house she once locked me out of. The one with the new locks and the smirks and the smug laughter through the window. I didn't go there to reminisce. I went with a purpose. I parked down the street, took a deep breath, and stepped out of the car. I wasn't dressed for drama, just a hoodie, jeans, and boots, but every step toward that front gate felt heavier than the last. The security guard from before? Gone. All that remained was the silence of a house that had been hollowed out by betrayal. The windows looked like empty eyes. The front door, once sealed shut against me, was now just another door. I had the new key in my hand. My lawyer worked fast. The court order had cleared the way. Title secured. Locks changed again. Rebecca's name was stripped from everything. She had no rights left here. When I stepped inside, it hit me all at once. The scent of her, still in the drapes, still in the cushions, still in the air like a ghost that hadn't gotten the message. I stood in the entryway for a while, staring at the framed photo on the wall, one of those cheesy engagement shots. She was laughing, looking at me like I was her whole world. I looked back at her like a man who would give up everything just to keep her happy. I pulled it down and dropped it face first into the trash. The house was a mess. Half-packed boxes, 2 wine glasses in the sink, clothes on the stairs. Apparently, when the cops removed them, they were in a hurry. The bedroom was even worse. Sheets tangled, drawers open, a cheap cologne stench still clinging to the pillows. I didn't touch anything for a while. Just stood there, breathing it all in, forcing myself to look, to feel, to let it burn through me like poison before I ripped it all out. Then I started cleaning. Not like a man doing chores. Like a man performing an exorcism. I tore the sheets off, dumped them in a garbage bag. Every pillow, every towel, every item of hers that still lingered, gone. Her heels, her robes, her perfume bottles. I filled 3 trash bags before I even made it to the bathroom. That's where I found it. A little pink notebook. Curious, I opened it. It wasn't just a notebook. It was a damn diary. At first, I thought I'd toss it straight out. But something told me to read. Big mistake. There were entries about him. Travis. About nights they spent in my bed. About how she laughed at my routines. My early mornings. My habits. She wrote things like, he doesn't excite me. He's just stable. Safe. Predictable. Travis makes me feel alive. Every word felt like a blade. There were even entries about their plans. Moving to Miami. Taking half my assets. Starting over. She was building her exit strategy while I was planning our future. I threw the notebook in the fireplace and watched it burn. Later that evening, I called a locksmith and had every single lock replaced again. I changed the alarm code. Booked a professional cleaning crew. Ordered new sheets. Knew everything. I was done pretending anything about this place was ours. This was my home now. No ghosts allowed. And yet, as night fell and the house grew quiet, I could still hear echoes. Her laugh from the kitchen. Her footsteps down the stairs. Her voice calling my name like it still meant something. I poured a drink. Sat down on the back porch. Stared out at the yard I once dreamed of filling with kids and cookouts. Now it was just me. But I wasn't broken. I was free. And when freedom comes wrapped in fire, you don't run, you let it burn. The next morning came with an odd stillness. No phone buzzing with her texts. No clattering heels across the hardwood floor. No fake kiss on the cheek before she disappeared for hours, claiming errands or yoga or dinner with the girls. Just silence. Real, uninterrupted silence. I got up, made coffee, and sat by the window. The house felt different already. Lighter. Not in a warm, joyful way. More like the air after a storm rips through a town. Debris still everywhere, but the wind has stopped screaming. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I stared at it for a second, debating. I already knew who it was. I answered anyway. Jackson. Her voice. Shaky. Trying to sound soft again, like the girl she used to be. What? I'm at the hotel. They said the reservation was only for 3 nights. I don't have anywhere to go after this. And I don't know what to do. You figured out how to cheat, lie, and lock me out of my own house, I said flatly. Figure this out too. There was silence on the line. Then the begging started. I don't want money. I'm not asking for anything permanent. Just help me get back on my feet. You mean the feet you used to sneak around behind my back? Her breath hitched. I made mistakes, Jackson. No. You made decisions, I corrected. Every lie, every secret, every time you came home smelling like someone else, you decided. Don't you dare soften it now. I'm not the only one who messed up, she said, voice suddenly sharper. You were cold, absent, obsessed with your job. I was drowning while you were climbing ladders. And instead of reaching for me, you opened your legs for someone else. Got it, she gasped. That's not fair. Neither was you giving my body heat to a stranger while I was killing myself to provide for you. I hung up. No yelling. No dramatic final words. Just a click. I sat there staring at the wall for a long time, heart pounding, rage curling behind my ribs like a slow fire. That was when the knock came. I opened the door, half expecting her again, but it wasn't Rebecca. It was Travis, the boyfriend, the man-child who'd smiled at me from my own living room window. He looked like trash. Hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot, sweatshirt stained with something dark and greasy. He stood on my doorstep like a lost dog, trying to look tough and failing miserably. I need to talk to you, he said. I stared. He cleared his throat. Look, I didn't know she was married at first. I swear. She said it was over between you two. I believed her. Cut the crap. I'm serious, he said, stepping forward. But then I saw it. The way she used both of us. The lies. She told me you hit her. My jaw clenched. What? She said you were violent. That you were controlling. That's why she brought me into your house. Said she needed protection. I laughed. Actually laughed. He looked confused. Let me guess. Then she said she'd leave me soon. Right? Just needed time. Just needed space. But she never did. She just kept both of us spinning like morons. He nodded. She's not staying with you now, is she? I asked. No. We had a fight. Big one. She tried to take my credit cards. Of course she did. I stared at him for a long second, then said, Get off my porch. But, now. He hesitated, then turned and walked off down the street like a broken scarecrow. I closed the door, locked it, and finally exhaled. That was the final piece. The last confirmation I needed. Rebecca wasn't just a cheater. She was a parasite. And for the first time in months, I realized it wasn't my fault. I wasn't weak. I wasn't blind. I was just the one who loved harder. But I wasn't that man anymore. And I never would be again. A week passed. I didn't hear from her again. No calls. No texts. No desperate voicemails at 3 a.m. pleading for another chance. It was like she'd finally accepted the truth, or maybe just found her next victim. Either way, I didn't care. I had my house back. My name. My peace. But peace isn't just silence. It's clarity. It's waking up and not second-guessing yourself. It's making coffee without wondering if someone's lying to you in the next room. It's walking through your own front door without wondering if someone else has walked through it while you were gone. One evening, I sat out on the porch. Same chair. Same view. But I felt different. The man I was when I said I do. He's gone. That man believed in forever. This man believes in reality. And here's the reality. I gave everything I had to someone who treated me like an option, who wore a ring I paid for while fantasizing about another man, who took shelter under my roof while plotting her escape like I was some prison warden and she was the poor caged bird. But I'm not bitter. Not anymore. I'm smarter. And if you're listening to this, if you're someone sitting in a car at 2 a.m. wondering why her phone's face down every night, or why she suddenly takes walks without you, or why the laughter you once shared now feels like a stranger's, listen closely. Trust your gut. Ask the hard questions. And if she lies, leave. Not because it's weak, but because it's strength most people will never have. The strength to walk away from someone you love the moment they stop loving you. My wife blocked me from the home I bought. She let another man sleep in my bed. She tried to erase me. But in the end, I'm still here. And she's gone. The house is clean. The locks are changed. The shadows are gone. And the silence? Now it feels like freedom.